Welcome to Doof's Tabletop, and today I'm talking about Dungeons and Dragons 5e in 2024, but mostly 5e because this book mostly pertains to 5e. And the book I'm talking about is my favorite supplementary book, Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Now, you don't have to have a supplementary book to play D&D, you don't. It just adds more rules and more classes, more stuff to the game for more options and things you can enjoy. Plus, I just like the artwork too. I mean, look how nice that looks. Like that's a nice tiger. A very nice tiger. But there are many ways to play Dungeons and Dragons. There's a lot of strategies and different thought methods, and some people play more on the more roleplay, more narrative side, and some people like to be onga bunga, mid-max, and you can do whatever you want, and that's kind of the beauty of the whole thing. Granted, sometimes those two don't mix well, and sometimes you get the people upset with one another. Like, you get the narrative people going like, alright, this guy's not even trying to roleplay, he just wants to kill stuff. And you get the min-max like, this guy just wants to, roleplay in a role-playing game. We want to kill things. And sometimes it doesn't match up, but that's not today's point, alright? Today's point is what makes this book so important. This book provides something that is so important to the game that it's not utilized or talked about. Not only is it mechanically good, but it is also very narratively and adds a nice flavor to the game. And what I'm talking about is tools. Now, in D&D, you get like tools like crafting tools, brewers tools, your mom's a tool, all that stuff. But what this offers is more like uses for them and DCs for what they can be used for. So you might have your for example, your forgery kit or your cobbler's tools. When in the heck in the adventure are you going to use your cobbler's tools? I mean, let's be honest. Like, maybe like once. Like, woo! Maybe you might have it if your dad's like a cobbler or something. Which, by the way, is not a very much, a very underutilized thing about these games. Remember, this is a medieval / Renaissance kind of time period. Cobblers were you needed cobblers in your towns. Otherwise, you wouldn't have shoes. So, cobbler's tools are interesting. So, you can add mechanics to make things like this interesting. For example, if you roll a DC 10 when trying to use your cobbler's tools, you might be able to find out a shoe's age or origin, which may not be that useful, but it could be something good for instead of a history check, like you walk into a cave, right? And you're looking around and there's a skeleton, in the corner of the room. Like, okay, well, how long has this been here for? A lot of people don't think much of it. But your cobbler's like, you know what? I'm gonna walk over and make my use my cobbler tools check, and he has proficiency in it. So he rolls a dice and DC's 10, and they look at it and go, oh wow, okay, I got a 15. DM, what is that? DM's like, oh well, as it turns out, you look at the shoes, the style, the leather, the work, and this body's been here for 4 hours. What? Yeah, these shoes are just made 4 hours ago. A guy got these shoes straight from the shop, came to this cave, and died immediately and had his flesh ripped off his bones. And all of a sudden, the whole mood changes. Everything is now looked at differently, and now you and the players look at the cobbler like, oh my... Bro, what? Another thing it can be used for is, honestly, something I've never heard of before, but it could be kind of fun. I've heard of okay, so if you roll a 15, for example, you can find a hidden compartment in the boot's heel. Now, I'm sure that's a thing. Some people have done that before, right? But I've heard of hiding notes in your shoe or keeping your money in your shoe. But having that be kind of a thing would be kind of nice, Your DM could actually use that for a lot of stuff. I'm keeping my secret, amulet in my boot. And no one will ever think to look there. And you're right, people wouldn't. But with the DC 15, yeah. Yeah, you could. I mean, okay, let's look at more tools. Because these get me excited, alright? Because there's a lot of flavors you can add to them. You can be more creative, too. The jeweler's tools. Alright. For DC 15, you can modify a gem's appearance. Now this, believe it or not, if you're doing a heist, oh yeah. Yeah, that's so you have a gold ring, right? And there's a nice gemstone, maybe like pretty big, in a museum, and they're trying to. Your job is to snag it. Now the issue is, it's a very famous gem. Anyone can see it. So you walk into the display room, and you just snap it, right? And you roll for your jeweler's check. You roll that 18. All you need is 15. And in a minute, you're in the bathroom. The security guard comes out. Hey, I know you have the gem. You're like, no, I don't. I saw you take it. No, you don't. The guard's like, yeah, I brought it back. Show me the gem. So they strip you down, searching everywhere. They even check your prison pocket, and they just can't find the gem. They look at your ring, and it looks like a gem, but it's not, because the gem shouldn't fit in there. It's not shaped like that. Well, I guess I'm crazy. I guess you didn't steal it. The guard walks off. No, you just changed the appearance, the shape. You just made it be able to fit your ring. And because the appearance has changed, they can't blame you. They don't think it's the same gem. Let's look at leatherworkers' tools. You can change a leather item's appearance or determine the leather item's history. Now, the nice thing about checking a history is, once again, with the boots, you can determine someone's status a lot by the decor on their belt or their armor. If you're just a regular soldier, no one's going to put a lot of time and effort making armor look pristine and nice if you're just expected to die out in battle. But if you're prestigious and you mean something, they will tend to put a little more effort in your armor. And sometimes with sigils and maybe with some like iconography, and you can look at the armor and understand what that means with the leather tools. Like determine the leather item's history. You might be able to look at it and know, like, okay, this has seen battle. This leather has seen some usage riding. I can see some hoof marks and where it's been trampled on. And this thing's traveled the world, hasn't it? And you get an idea, and you can use this as some sort of insider information. So let's say it's like some sort of knight. You catch him in the bar. He's donned off his armor, and he's like, yeah, I don't want to know who I am. You don't need to know who I am. I'm just some guy. But you could be, oh, I know who you are. I know you travel the world. I've known you seen combat. You can't hide this from me. And all of a sudden, the mood changes once again. And now the knight's like, oh god, okay, this guy seems to know quite a bit about me. And so the nice thing about roleplay is, sometimes it's good to pretend you have information, or use a little bit amount of information to pretend you know more than you do. And when you do that, they will expose more information, more than often than not. Because, what's there to hide? You already know everything. At least I think so. Glassblower's tool. Identify source of glass. Now this is good for a mystery. Because where identify the source of glass, there's different glasses which comes from different stones and different minerals can be used to color stones, and different paints and stuff like that. If you can identify the source of a glass, you'd have a really good idea where it's from. So you can get an idea of someone's origin, or somebody's, like, maybe what the craft could possibly be, like where they got trained in to do it, or maybe where they're, it gives you a good idea of where that is. So it's good for tracking or mysteries, or trying to figure out what's what. Determine what glass object once held. Now that's something else very interesting too. Alright, you got this little vase, you're not thinking much of it. And you walk up to it, and you use your glassblower's tools. You use your skill in that. You roll 20. You need a DC 20. Ooh, that's kind of high. But you look at it, and hold on, there's some scratches in there. This isn't held for flowers. This is held to hold poison darts. Wait a minute. You look around. There's other vases everywhere, and you see flowers coming out of it. But upon further inspection, now that you're suspicious and you scrutinize, and you realize that these are flower heads or flower buds on top of poison darts. this guy could kill you. So now you're aware. You know, you can have your cleric or someone cast a spell to protect you from poison. You can be aware of this. Herbalism kit, find plants and identify poison. That actually might be the most useful of all of them. There's entire quests where you need to find a medicinal plant or something. That's a common quest line. Okay, so how do we know what it is? Well, or what to find? Well, herbalism kit. Well, dang, like you could do a good job spotting that thing. You know, or a thing or two. And identify poison. It could be another good one too. Is if, you know, narratively, you just cure poison is cure poison. You know, it's mechanical like that. But you can have a whole system your DM can develop where different poisons require different solutions, require different things. Like an antivenom, you know. One cure can't cure all poison. But if you can identify the poison, then maybe it can really help out with the medicine check. There you go. Maybe more than just an advantage. It has to be more than an advantage. Because that's the problem with 5e, is it's mostly just advantages, and once in a while you get a +2 or something. It needs to be more than just that. It needs to be a really, really big one. Or better yet, it can be used in place of a medicine check. And the poor medicine check is barely used at all. Because most poisons only last for a little bit, you know, in combat. And most DMs don't really think much of if you have a long-term poison. That's what diseases are for. And even then, a lot of DMs, I think I've only seen a couple diseases ever been used. Or my character had one. And the disease was they were constantly thirsty. And he described it as them having constant diarrhea. And it sounds awful and gross, but it was part of the whole medical thing where we're trying to find a cure for this disease because my character has to keep consuming water. And it's really dragging everybody down. Where if I go like a day without water, my character begins to die. Oh my god, we gotta find water. So we also have to stop in our tracks to save my character's ass. And I felt like a burden in that adventure. And that wasn't a very... Honestly, it wasn't a very good campaign anyway, to be fair. But at the same time, you know, it's not really DM's fault. I mean, it is his fault. I mean, but it wasn't like... It wasn't bad, alright? He wasn't a bad DM. It was just a storyline that was just okay. And sometimes you're gonna make a story that's just gonna be okay. You know, you're not gonna... Not every single one of them is gonna be a winner. And it was not a long campaign. It was like 6 sessions or something. You know, I mean, yeah, which is fine. Yeah, he did a good job. He did a good job with his other campaigns. This is just one of them where, at the end, I remember being honest. He said, "Hey guys, what do you think?" My response was, you know, the last one with the whole waterfall dragon thing was a lot cooler, you know. But anyway, I went on a tangent there. A potter's tool. So this actually has 3 things you can do with it that are listed here with DCs. Determine what a vessel once held. I already explained that with the whole glassworks. Create a serviceable pot. That could be very good for holding water in a jam. You know, you've been out in the wilderness forever, and now you're like, great, we need something to carry the special water, the special liquid, or the special dirt to a certain place. Oh, God, what do we use? Hey, Jerry, could you make a pot? And, you know, he makes a jar, and it's a serviceable jar. And then in D20s, find a weak point in a ceramic object. This could be for busting statues and finding secrets in statues. This could be maybe some walls are, you know, have ceramic over it. There's a hidden passage back there. There's a lot of things you can do with finding a weak spot in a ceramic object. You can also, like, there's more stuff down here than what I'm describing, by the way, of course. You can, like, rebuild the pottery, too. You could understand what it used to be. Yeah, okay, a lot of this is flavor, but a lot of it can be used to really help with other checks and really help make a very creative story experience. You can create a very interesting gaming experience too. Because if you're just using your base stats all the time, it's gonna get old. You know, it's not gonna feel like. It's just gonna feel a little old. It's nice to have a little more these tools be a flavor of like something else besides I'm muscular, I'm good at punching. Have something more of along the line of, but on my side time though, I dabble a bit in painting. I'm a painter in my spare time. And I think that's a very nice thing to have. I think that's what makes the game very interesting. Adds a lot more to your character. Because the more details you have to your character, more solid details, the easier it is, at least for most people, to grow attached and understand their character well. It makes their actions feel more consistent. It makes you understand, like, other players understand what makes them tick. And I feel like if you can do that, if you build a character like that, you are really good, a really good spot. Like, that is the best way D&D can be played, is when everyone role plays in such a way where you know exactly how, not the player, how the character is going to respond to situations. You get a lot of fun back and forth. And when you have that, dude, having inner character conflicts is so much easier and it's better because you don't have to really think about, you know, am I going to piss off the player? No. Oh no. He knows exactly how his character's going to respond. And so that's how you get these really good bickering back and forths. I'm rambling. My point is, the tools in D&D are underutilized, and this book is the best supplementary book, in my opinion, for D&D. I know Tasha's gets a lot of credit too, but people... This book is just the best. I love this book so much. I mean, look at Xanathar. Look at his stupid... Look at his shit-eating grin. And if you found this video interesting or insightful, please drop a comment, leave a sub, or like or something, because I don't know what your favorite tool is in D&D. Alright, I'll be seeing ya.